Hello and welcome everyone, this is Dmitry and we are having another network programmability stream, and today we are going to cover an interesting project which is called NRE Labs, Network Reliability Engineering Labs, where I think the main person behind them is Matt, but probably it's more than one person, I guess. So the idea behind those labs is to give you some hands-on knowledge directly in the web browser. How would you approach network automation or net DevOps? So today we are going to take a couple of labs, or maybe more than a couple, and go through them together, and I will provide you some of my feedback as we will go through them. So before we will actually do that, as always, I will share a couple of things that are on top of my mind this week. So there aren't many, so I guess it will take just 5 minutes. By the way, if you're watching a recording on YouTube, in the description you can always find a timecode. So if you are not interested in any in some section of the stream, then you can always jump into the what's most relevant for you. So a couple of things. I had an interview with David Bombal during Cisco Live Europe. David is just an amazing person. I had so much fun talking to him, and we had an interview, and it was just posted last week. So if you're and we were talking about a little bit about my background, about certifications, about network automation, Python, Ansible, a little bit about machine learning. And if you're interested in that, go ahead and check it out. It's available on YouTube on his channel. Now, another thing that I would like to share is this series of articles I read just yesterday, which is the state of Python packaging. It was just recently published. It's a series of 3 articles, and it goes through like history of like how Python packaging is done, and the newest PEPs and newest additions to pip. So if you are a library developer, I really encourage you to go through this series. It will be really helpful for you to understand all of the different moving pieces inside, like for Python packaging, and some newest additions, and how can change your workflow a little bit with the newest PEP 517 and 518. So I do really encourage you to go through this article if you are a library developer. If you are not, you'll still benefit from understanding like how Python packaging is done, but it will be just a little bit less relevant for you. I really enjoyed this read, so I encourage you to check it out. Okay, that's pretty much it that was on top of my mind this week. So let's actually jump into today's topic. So as I told you before, if I understood correctly, the NRE Labs is hands-on labs that you can do inside of the browser, where you can get familiar with some of the network automation and some of the net DevOps concepts. And yeah, the majority of the stuff was developed by Matt Oswald, who is right now in the chat, so we can say hi to him. See, that's the benefit of you being on the live stream. You can actually talk to some of the creators of the stuff that we are covering, which I find amazing. So if you go to this portal, well, if you look into Google for NRE Labs, you will end up on this portal. Let me also unblock all of the JavaScript here to make sure that nothing is broken. And we will go to find lesson content, and we will try to select some of the labs. So I will give you just a minute in the chat. If you have, I do have some of my personal preferences, but if you would like some of these labs to be covered today on the stream, please do let me know. Though please also keep in mind that some of these topics I already covered in one way or another on the stream. For example, like YAML, for example, we had Jinja, we didn't really have Git, we definitely had REST API with Netbox, for example. So I may not necessarily cover the topics that you selected, but I will try doing my best in selecting the labs. One of the things that I haven't covered at all was, and I really want to, was robot framework. I do think this is something that we'll try doing today. But if you have some other preferences, let me know. Probably we'll cover several of them today. There's a question in the chat. Can I ask you a question off topic because I need to go to sleep? Have you shared the specs of the server used to run your GNS3 setup in the past? I think it was somewhere, but I can repeat. I just have a virtual machine, but it has a lot of resources. I think like 16 vCPUs and 64 gigs of RAM. But you can run it on a much smaller machine inside of your laptop or something. So doesn't really matter. Really depends like how many devices you want to run. Okay, please folks, go to this catalog and the share with me your preferences on the labs. So probably we will not go through the fundamentals on the left because almost all of this we have covered on the stream in one form or another. Now here from this list, I don't think I covered JSnappy. I don't know how it's pronounced correctly, I'm sorry. I think it's part of the it helps you with compliance, if I remember correctly, when I was preparing for the GNCIS DevOps exam, but it was a long time ago, I don't really remember. We did have a stream about Napalm. We haven't touched StackStorm at all. We did have a stream about PyEZ. We did have something about Sode, but we covered it very briefly though. We haven't covered Robot, and this stuff on the right, I'm not yet sure what exactly it includes. So automating the troubleshooting chain, I'm not 100% sure what kind of tools we are going to cover there. This sounds interesting to me. Stick compliance validation, also I'm not sure what is that. So my personal preference right now is the robot framework. So we will start with that. But if you have some other preferences, what we should do after that lab, please let me know in the chat. Okay, so let's go, and I think it would actually take some time to load. Hopefully, yeah. So Matt, since you are in the chat, do you mind briefly telling us what is the backend architecture that is being used for these labs? I know you're using Kubernetes, so I'm actually evaluating using Kubernetes for some of my work projects. Could you provide some background regarding the architecture of this while the lab is loading? There is comment in chat. In an interview on a podcast, NRE Labs mentioned that there are options on NRE Labs to kind of build your own network topology, but I didn't see such options. I may not remember it well, but I believe he also said the new labs support multiple vendors. Hopefully you will cover it today. Well, I don't know. I don't know because yeah, I mean, I'm not really part of this project, so I'm just a user here. If I will find something like that, I can definitely try doing it. Sure, here's architecture paste in the docs. Okay, so while the lab is loading and it seems that it actually has already loaded, I think it would be good to go through this link that Matt has shared, and let's try to understand a little bit about the project architecture. Okay, so the Google Compute Engine is being used. On top of it, we have Kubernetes. Now, I'm not yet sure what Syringe and Antidote Web is being used. Oh, it's described right here. Cloud infrastructure, Terraform, instance config, Ansible. Now, okay, so I guess the Ansible is being used just to provision. It needs to be good. Okay, so I guess this is something like Docker and kubectl installation and kubeadmin and stuff like that. I think so. Container scheduling, Kubernetes, lesson provisioning, syringe. It ingests a very simple lab definition, creates necessary resources in the cluster. It also provides an API for the web front end to know how to provision and connect to lab resources. Okay. Oh, so this is kind of like how you do on the backend the creation of the proper lab backend, I guess. And web frontend, we develop custom web application based on Tomcat and Guacamole that serves the frontend. Guacamole does VNC, Jupyter notebooks help stepping through the lab exercises. Let me also see. Yeah, I don't want to spend a lot of time reading through this, but I will try to go through the most interesting pieces. Okay, so it's in particular about the antidote itself. Okay. Okay, so we have curriculum, we have course, which is category, we have lessons, which is just set of exercises, and we have labs, a set of related steps forming a workflow in a lesson. Courses. Here's the list of courses currently under consideration and development: troubleshooting, config elementary security, testing validation, infra as a code, event-driven infrastructure. Okay, I actually think we are good to go. Let me also see in the chat what's going on. I remember why it's called antidote, reference to viral. Yeah, Syringe and Antidote Web are the custom bits we developed. Syringe talks to Kubernetes to provision resources and provide an API. Antidote Web is what you see in the browser. It consumes Syringe API. Okay, makes sense. Perfect. Thank you so much, Matt. Okay, so let's actually go through this. Let me see how many labs are here. So we have Intro to Robot Framework, writing test cases for Junos, and Robot Framework best practices. And it's being contributed by these two folks. Okay. Chapter 1, Introduction to Robot Frameworks. A robot framework is a Python framework which is used to perform acceptance testing. Provides you a simple interface to write test cases. Robot is keyword-driven testing framework. All actions and functions of the test suite are performed using simple, human-understandable keywords. Architecture is shown in diagram. Let's also get the user guide. So I have never used Robot Framework before, but I definitely heard about it. And as far as I remember, the main use case is to develop this kind of like testing interface, if you will, where you could actually write all English sentences which are converted to test cases. So you could write something like check 5 BGP neighbors on device X or something like this, directly in like English, right? and then the framework itself will kind of like help you convert this sentence to the actual things that you have to do, but I may be wrong. At least those are use cases that I saw before. Okay, so let's move on various concepts used in the robot framework. A typical robot file is shown below. Actually, you know what? Let me copy this and no. Okay, so NRE Labs robot framework. Wait, what? Okay. Okay, so let's see. Library, my library py, variables, keywords, test cases, check, name should be equal, name 1 to Jane. Okay. Different sections, settings, variables, keywords, test cases are called tables. They're a way to arrange different components. Settings section is used to import standard libraries, external libraries, resource files, variables files, tier down settings. The purpose of these libraries and files will be explained in later sections. Okay, before we move forward, by the way, I do have a question for you, Matt. So I see here we have QFX at the Junos device. Is it provisioned as a virtual machine or it's run directly in the container? Meanwhile, the variable section defines variables used in these test cases. There are 4 types of variables. Scalar. Okay, this is just a constant like list variables used to store lists. Okay, you can reference. Okay, let me see. Okay, so this is just a constant. This is also a constant, but it's a list where you can have a number of things. Dictionary variables is with ampersand and name dict, where you can have key value pairs, but this one is empty. That's actually, I like messing around with stuff. I'm not sure why Command C is not working, to be honest. Yeah, I'll have to right click copy. Environment variables used to store string environment variables and are referenced using identifiers. Oh, okay, so this is directly from your machine. You can specify the environment variable with the %sign. Okay, let me also check if there are any comments in the chat. Oh, there were many comments and I missed all of that. Hello there everyone, thanks Dmitry for streaming, first time here, looking forward to learn Python network automation. Thank you for joining. I hope you will learn something useful today from my previous recordings. Great question. So Matt is answering. Great question. In this case, all network devices are provisioned on demand as virtual machines running QEMU in Docker. Oh wow! So you actually built a container with QEMU, and inside of it you run the virtual network device. That's pretty awesome. Since we are running Kubernetes, this is the easiest way to get those devices running without calling out to a separate hypervisor. Makes perfect sense. That's why I asked the question. I was really curious how you do that. In NRE Labs, okay, there are questions mainly to Matt, so I will not address them. Okay. keyword section is where the real testing capability of the robot framework shown. Those keywords are provided by various test libraries which are part of robot ecosystem. There are a few different types of libraries that robot can use. Standard library, built-in keyword library, external library, and private library. Can be Python and Java. Okay, to use the keywords defined by the standard external private libraries, first need to be imported in settings table of the robot file. Built-in keywords can be used out of the box without the need to import any library in the settings section. Also, it should be noted that keywords behave like functions. They can take in arguments and can return values back. Okay, let's see examples. So built-in should be equal Jane John. This built-in keyword should be equal check. Okay. You can have a custom Python file with custom functions where you can. Oh, okay. So I guess this function would return just a boolean like true or false. You provide these arguments, then this is you will write the English like text like this, and then this will invoke is a substring str1 str2. I'm though interested. You say that its keyword is a substring automatically. So I guess it just removed the underscores and capitalizes this. Finally, the test use case section contains the test cases we would like to execute using keywords, variables, libraries. Test cases are executed in the same order as they are occurring in the test file. Okay, let's see. Test cases check name is the name of the test use case which uses a built-in keyword should be equal. Okay, so let me try to make an analogy here. So something like keywords in robot framework would be the stuff that you write inside of your PyTest functions directly. Then you could kind of like group them and assign the names for these tests and these keywords, and those will go to like test cases. So I guess, for example, you could put like you have a class in PyTest which is named with something, and then you have a number of actual tests, right? So something like class name in this case would be a name of this use case, name of this test case, and all of these keywords would be kind of like your functions inside of that class for the PyTest, I guess. Okay, a few important syntax points to remember. There should be at least 2 spaces between the following: keywords and keywords, keywords and arguments, arguments and arguments. Okay, so here I should have at least 2 spaces. Running your first robot file, in our example, we have a file called chapter1 eg1 robot and a Python file substring py. Okay, let's actually examine this. And I guess if I run the snippet, it will execute it for me in the shell. No, I think my lab stopped. Okay. Use tabs below to use play around explorer. I guess we will have to restart the lab. I don't know, I can't type anything. If you refresh the page, just reconnect right away. Okay, that's alright. Okay, so then I have some chance to catch up with the chat. I like the so I'm looking on Twitter right now while it's being loaded. I like how you took a picture of me on TV or something. That's pretty slick. Okay, yeah, I am now back into the lab. So I guess if I click on this button, it will execute. Yeah, to execute this for me directly. To be honest, I don't really like doing that. So, I mean, that's perfect though. I personally don't like it since I like to invest some time into like muscle memory. So I do like to retype because then I remember more what exactly I'm doing. In this case, it doesn't really matter because it's just a cat. So I think it's alright. But usually when I'm learning new stuff, I really try to retype stuff if it's not super big. Okay, so let's take a look on this function. So is a substring str1. If those two strings are not the same, raise exception is not a substring. Oh, if str1 is not in str2. Okay, so this makes sense. So we are just checking if the first string is inside of the next string. And you can actually see that in case of wrong stuff, we are actually raising an exception. I thought it would be just a boolean function, but I don't know. Okay, let's see the robot file. No, I don't want to rewrite cat. Okay, so you load this Python file. We have our two variables, which are robot, and then we are checking if should be equal as strings. Okay, so we are checking if robot is part of the framework, if robot is part of the robot, and if robot is part of the robot but with a proper lower and uppercase letters. And then we have another name is a substring. Oh, okay, so this is should be equal, so this is a default one in the robot, and this is a substring is taking that function without underscores to compare this. Okay, so let's run this. We just do it with the robot. So let's go ahead and do that. No, Okay, so we have this robot and we have the substring py. Okay, so let's execute this. Let's take a look. So we have check equal 3. Oh, we actually have some details here. So robot is not equal to framework, robot is not equal to lowercase robot. This one is correct. Check substring is correct. And then June is not substring of Juniper. Okay, I'm actually interested, do we really need an exception there? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to change this a little bit and is it tabs? Yeah, it's tab. Okay. Okay, let's run this again. Interesting. Okay, yeah. So you should actually raise an exception if it's incorrect, because if you don't, then you just receive that it passed. Let's actually see a robot use false instead of exception. Yeah, I guess you need to actually raise an exception. Let me also see what's going on in the chat. That's one bug I still need to hunt down. There is something going on with the HTTP tunnel between the frontend and Gulag proxy. Sometimes it randomly disconnects. The lesson still exists, so it will reconnect if you refresh, but it's still annoying. Yeah, makes sense. Oh, so what you're saying is that whatever I see here, like in here, this is actually a guacamole session directly in the browser. Actually, for one of my projects, we'll also have to build our own wrapper for guacamole. I am, to be honest, I'm not looking forward to doing that. Connects to a container running back in Kubernetes. Okay, cool. Okay, we are finished with this lesson. This is pretty straightforward. So what did we learn from this lesson? First, how you can use the robot framework to use the like using built-in keywords. In this case, the built-in keywords was should be equal. And then we looked how you can define your own function. And it will be converted to is a substring in English. So you can name your function differently, and then you can use English-like sentences to build your test cases. Okay, let's go to the next lab. FYI, don't forget the drop down on top of the left page. Oh, I think I did correctly, right? I just clicked on go to the next lab and it will go through to the next thing in the drop down. I really like this random funny comments duct taping 53 JavaScript framework together. It's really funny. Yeah. Okay. So we will how to communicate with Junos, use keywords from Junos private library and pass command line arguments to robots, pass arguments for private functions keywords. We'll use virtual QFX connected to a Linux machine. You run test cases, use a robot on the Linux machine and talk to the QFX via netconf to fetch information like its model name, version, host name, serial number. For simplicity, robot framework will use PyZ library. You can install it. Okay, we already had the stream about PyZ before. Similar to the example in the previous chapter, we will create a Python file where we will define functions that use PyZ library to connect to our device, fetch necessary information, and close the connection to our device. Okay, let's go ahead and do that. I think this should be pretty straightforward. Lessons. Lesson 29, stage 2. And it would be good if I could actually type anything correctly, which I obviously can't. Okay. we will look on the Junos. Okay, so Junos in this case is this like private library, as they call it, which is just a interesting. Why? Oh, it's alright. Okay. So okay, it's a class Junos device, connect device, device open, device facts, clause, get hostname, get mon. Okay, so in this case, these two things, either get hostname or get model. In this case, we will connect to the device, fetch the details and return the proper key, and then I don't think we close connection here. No, I don't think so. So we actually open connection, return result. We open another connection, return a result. We don't close the connection. That's alright. That's fine. The let me see. Let's look on the robot file now. So chapter robot. Okay. So we have our test case. One of them is called check hostname, and then you. Let me actually copy paste this. Hopefully this will work. No. No. Okay. Did this work? Okay, so I guess I should then maybe this one. Yeah, so unfortunately it kills all of my new lines. Just to clarify, Matt, this is not me critiquing you or anything. I know, like in this case, I guess it's some guacamole issue. Yeah, I want to have it here so that I have some kind of notes after this finishes, because I have one note where I put all of my learned things so that I can quickly look it up later. Yeah, I think nah, it will be a pain if I will continue doing that. Oh, it's right here actually. That's what I should have done at the beginning. Okay. So connect device. Well, let me bring up that Junos file again. Junos. Yeah. So connect device will use this connect device function. We provide details directly from the environment variables, I guess. And then and then we assign to the hostname variable result from the get hostname here, and then we are comparing the hostname with vqfx1, and then we close device. Okay, makes sense. Oh, sorry, I want to run everything with Python. Okay, and then we have the same thing with the second one. So then we connect to the device. We are doing, and then we comparing the model. Okay. It's bad I don't remember anything. Software. No, I sorry, I don't remember a single command on Junos. That's fine. Okay, so then we can run this with minus variable, and instead of like environmental variable, you can provide these variables directly in the from the command line, so that you can check out this file in the Git, but without all these secret details. Okay, I don't want to retype this, to be honest, because I will definitely make 10 mistakes. So let's just look this closely. So minus variable, provide host, the same thing, minus variable, user, password, and then the robot file. Okay, let's just run this. Okay, it will take some time. Okay, so those are okay. And then we have output, log, and report. Let's actually, well, yeah, I guess I would need to install it. Okay, I will just check it like this. Okay, this is the same output in XML. Report HTML. Okay, this is probably just a more or less pretty page for the same stuff we saw on the command line. Yeah, without a browser, I don't want to look on the HTML code for this, really. Okay, cool. Dividing by oh god, this is amazing. Divide by 0 shutting down, and I was just learning to laugh. I don't know, I mean, it's just funny. It makes me feel better when I read something like this. I haven't paid any attention to the chat, so let me do that. Very strange that it stripped new lines. I took a note. We'll add links or something to be able to use those reports. Yeah, I agree with you. That would be pretty cool. Okay, robot best practice. By the way, folks, this is the last lab in this list for the robot. So while I am doing that, please go to the page, to the catalog, and give me your suggestions for the next lab. Okay, robot framework best practices, defining user keywords. Okay, so it's kind of like you're creating function which does some tests nested. In this case, in terms of robot, it's just a keyword. Using resource files, variable files. Those files have the same syntax as robot files. The only difference being they can't contain test cases table. I actually have to go through this. I thought I could just scroll, but unfortunately I will have to give it more thought. So all variables and user keywords can only be used within a file in which they were created. In order to reuse these variables across multiple files, you create resource files. So resource files are the same robot files, but without test cases table. Also, the settings can only contain the important files and the docs. The use is separate, yeah. The approach helps in keeping the test cases file uncluttered, and you can keep variable files as a Python module. All variables declared inside the Python module can be directly imported in the robot file. The robot framework supports two types of setup and teardown: test setup, test teardown, suit test up, suit teardown. Okay, so this is very similar to something like conf test in PyTest, or the fixture, which is limited to session, for example. Keywords defined under test setup and teardown settings around before and after every test case. Keywords defined under suite test up. I always forget, is it suite or suite? Sorry, I have to know. Sweet. Okay. Okay, English lesson with Dmitry on network programmability stream. Okay. Consider scenario where netconf session is initialized and terminated before an hour after every test case. In this case, the size of the robot file can be reduced by using test and teardown settings as required. Yeah, so for example, we had a stream recently about Nornir with PyTest, and we had kind of like very similar stuff where we would set up our connections in the conf test, so that it's propagated through the whole for all test cases, so we don't open and close connections all the time. Okay, let's examine our robot test case. Yeah. Again, I was talking too much. I'm sorry. Okay. Let's see what is the joke here. Nice. Damn, this is good. We divide by automating time, which is 0, and then we display more network, more NRE Labs. Man, this is awesome. This is very cool. I like these Easter eggs. This is also very good. So every time I press a refresh, there is Matt logging in into every single container and setting it up. I'm trying to imagine that would be so hilarious. Even better, I can imagine when I do this, Matt goes to he spins up a container with QEMU, then he he installs the VQFX there, starts it, deploys some initial config there, sets up a guacamole session to all of the to the container, and giving these details, changing the data in the database so that our front end gets a notification that it's all done. You should be good to go. I have to plug a console cable in so you can connect me. Very nice, very nice. Okay. We are almost there, folks, for this lab. Okay, so we have multiple robot files. We have Junos device, which I think it's the same thing. Well, the same file as we saw in the previous step. Yeah, it's the same. And then we have multiple robot files, which we will try to understand. So we must have noticed that the new keywords. Oh, okay, first let me see the file. Okay. So, okay, so this file loads the Junos device PY, and now it has keyword section where we have log facts and validate facts. So log facts gathers facts. Oh, please, this hurts me. When I look at this, I get a feeling like I'm building an Ansible playbook and then trying to debug it. I mean, I understand that this is like robot framework itself, so I'm not complaining towards NRE Labs. I'm complaining about the robot, I guess. It's like when I read this, I can imagine the with items in Ansible YAML, and then like, okay. Okay, so this seems to be a dictionary, and then log. Okay, so log would be just like an assignment, I guess. So yeah, I think this is just an assignment. So we go through the dictionary, and then for every key, like hostname, we assign the value of this key. So in this case, this would be something like a register, I guess, in Ansible or something. And then we have validate facts, which is we are gathering facts again. Or maybe log is just actually printing it on the... Oh, I think I know what it is, right? So okay, log, I guess it will just add it to the log file, right? And then validate facts. We get these facts again from the device info and should be equal as strings. We just check. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so I was wrong. So this is not like register. This is just adding this to the log file. So we have test cases. We log it to a file. I think it's a file. And then we verify those. Okay. Okay, this is pretty straightforward. No, I'm not going to retype all of this. Okay, all test cases are pass. So the robot file has only 2 sections. Okay, we have to take a look on the third one. By the way, what happens if I do this? No, it doesn't seem like I can copy paste inside of this. No, doesn't work. No, Matt, I don't believe you. I'm pretty sure you're doing it all by hand. There is no other way. Automation is just the product of our imagination, so I'm pretty sure you're all doing it manually. And we just start hype on the Twitter that we should do network automation, but really it's just an army of people trying to plug console cables and building those config files manually as we run those playbook scripts or whatever we have. Yeah, Fallen Arc understood. That's the main reason Matt joined the stream. You couldn't fool us, Matt. You couldn't fool us. Okay, so this file, I guess it's a rework of this previous case where this file is referring to another robot file as a resource. We have test setup and test teardown. So for every test, we will do setup actions and teardown actions. And then test cases, verify facts, validate facts. Okay. So then let's look on this chapter 3 resource file. Okay, so then, and this resource file contains the setup actions and teardown actions, where setup actions we connect to the device, teardown actions we close the device, and then validate facts we are checking this stuff. Okay, so this is just a way to like rearrange it to make it more flexible. And let's run this robot file now. Perfect. So it works. Okay, that's it for this lesson. Perfect. So let's we still have a lot of time on the stream, so we'll definitely take a look on one or more labs. Let's do a quick summary, like my first impression towards well, not towards, about these labs. So personally, I have never, well, I have heard about Robot Framework, for example, but I have never tried it. Okay, and I think this is an awesome way to explore something that you don't know yet, right? I mean, it's obviously not a lot, right? I mostly talked instead of doing the lab, and if I would just like go through all of these, it literally would take me probably like 30 minutes without some of the distractions, right? Maybe 30 to like 45 or something. And afterwards, I at least get some understanding of what Robot Framework is, what are its features and main capabilities, and how it can run simple things. So now I don't have that fear of unknown anymore. And then, like, if I think that this is something that could benefit me and my work or what my projects, whatever, then I can go ahead to their docs and start playing with them more on my setup. But the main point here that I don't anymore have this fear of unknown. I spend just 30 to 45 minutes to get familiar, to get some hands-on experience. Now I feel so much more comfortable with learning it on my own. Because one of the problems that I have, not only with NetDevOps, right, is there are so many different tools, and if you really like want to learn every one of those, it will take you a lot of time, right? But with something like this, it's so easy for me to get this hands-on knowledge, to reduce this fear of this particular tool or feature or whatever, so that I get more confidence to explore it on my own. So I see a lot of value in something like this. I think this is just amazing that you have this capability. You don't need to install anything. You just open your browser, you select something that got your attention or got your interest. You spend 45 minutes or 30 or 45, whatever, and now you can now continue exploring this tool on your own if you feel that this is interesting for you. So yeah, that's just awesome. This barrier of entry is reduced greatly, which is a good thing, right? Because a lot of people coming to network automation at DevOps and they don't really know how to start. So that's awesome. Okay, so folks, you haven't given me any hints about my next lab. So I guess I will have to select on my own. I'm looking if I want to, I don't really want to do JSnappy. Napalm we did, StackStorm sounds interesting, not sure if I really want to do it today. To be honest, this one looks very interesting to me. So the automating the troubleshooting chain, and also I would like to see StackStorm as well, but I would like to see this more. I vote for a StackStorm lesson. Okay, Matt. That's fair. Okay, let's do then StackStorm. Again, this will be also my first time doing StackStorm. So I did Ansible, I did a little bit of Salt, but I have never touched StackStorm before in my life. Now rendering NRE's best friend for you to play fetch with. Were you inventor of all of these jokes, or someone was helping you there? That's pretty cool. So while it's loading, just a couple of small issues that I hit was the different copy paste problems. But I think what really helps in this particular case is that you have this button run, so that you don't have to you don't necessarily need to use that copy paste at all. Though for my own notes, I would love to have an artifact of my learning process somewhere. So it's a small issue. It's not a big deal. I think I don't remember the source, but I was doing some lab where they were also network programmability lab, where you get the virtual machine and you get VNC access to machine, and then you get the virtual devices provision there. And the tasks were, okay, you have to now write piece of code that does this or something. But then the copy paste was not working at all there. There was no way to get copy paste working. So you had to, as part of the lab, you had to write a script, but you couldn't even use examples that they had before because you couldn't just get them there. At the end, I think I opened the lesson itself directly from the browser inside of VM just to enable copy paste. In this case, even though I also had some issues with copy paste, it matters less because the tasks get this run the snippet button. So I don't really have a need to like copy paste big chunks of code. Yeah, it's small. It's like I'm just providing the feedback since you are on the stream, but I don't think it's like big deal or something. I still really like the whole idea and the execution. It's so easy for me to like, I don't have to pay anything. I don't have to log in anywhere. I just jump into the lab within 5 minutes. I spend as much time as I want or can to learn something new, right? That's just amazing. And well, as a side benefit, right, that you also show how to interact with the devices produced by the company that you're working on. So it's kind of like win-win, right? So not only you introduce people to these different open source tools, but you also show how to use these tools to interact with the devices of your vendor, right? So that's this add value, I guess, right? Okay, let's actually start with the lab. So event-driven network automation with StackStorm. So unpacks will expose the use of powerful. Okay. Oh, there is a lesson video and there is a diagram and there is a video. Okay. I will disable sound. Okay, it would be probably good if I watch this video, but yeah, I would definitely watch it if I was not doing the stream right now. I like simple diagrams though. That's good. Okay. Oh, there are also stats. Let me see the stats. Is they're working. Oh, I nice. Oh, by the way, I have a question for you. Do you have auto scaling for the like nodes and stuff? So like when there is a peak in labs for some reason, right? Many people doing labs at the same time. Do you auto scale the nodes and the containers for that? Did you have any issues with that? Or you have some kind of like hard limit for all of that? It's too bad I can't change the time. Okay, the comment in chat from Matt is no auto scaling today. Currently we provision a few beefy VMs and it works pretty well. Okay, cool. Did you have like any situations where you were hitting the limit of that capacity? Or for now it's all good? Okay, let's meanwhile continue with the lesson. So we will do StackStorm. The command line command in CLI is st2. We'll take a moment to overview this, and then we to interact with other systems we use packs. I guess packs would be something similar to like Ansible module. I think so. I'm not yet sure. Okay. Okay, cool. So Matt is saying that they haven't had any hard limits yet. Well, Matt, once people will learn that this kind of resource exists, I'm pretty sure that at some point this may happen, right? I see a lot of value in something like this. Just so easy to get started. Okay, I did help, and this is just too much for me. Okay. Okay, trigger rule action. We will do some work in the following labs. Okay, debug. And then debug is pretty printed as JSON. Requests are printed as equivalent CURL. I actually don't know the correct name. Is it like pronounced curl or CURL? I think it's curl, right? Curl. Another English lesson with Dmitry and another programmability stream. According to the authors, yeah, you do curl. Okay. That's actually pretty slick that for the request they print curl command. You just need to add this debug flag to your favorite command, and you know what, just run it and see for yourself. It's pretty cool. Okay, let's do this. Okay, so again, right now I like don't exactly understand what I'm doing, but let's try to figure it out, right? So okay, so this is StackStorm, debug mode, run core local. I guess this is, we specify that we want to run this something afterwards locally, I guess. So this would be like localhost in Ansible, I guess. Okay, so at the very end you get result as YAML. I'm sorry, but when I laugh when I say YAML, I just still have nightmares after I do Ansible. Okay, here we go. So okay, when you run task, okay, so all of the tasks are being grabbed, I guess, with the StackStorm, and it's kind of like you submit this task and then you can query it. It's kind of like, in this case, Celery, if you will, almost like, right? So you can query the status of the task. Here is ID. So here at the very top, we do post, so we create a task, right? We provide all of these parameters, data binary, parameter cmd, date. We do post on these localhost executions. We then run it. It provides us a result, which is, I don't see it. probably it was somewhere. And then we query this job. We say succeeded, logs, parameters, and then in the result we have the std out. Okay, so you have some action, you create a job from it, you submit it using HTTP, well, REST API, right? To do post to StackStorm. It creates this task, it gives you back ID, and then you can query the ID of this task and see the result of this action. Yeah, there's comment in the chat about the stats page position. Yeah, I would also agree. It was a little bit hard. Yeah, like if it was on in the middle of the page, and then if I could also check this to change it, that would be awesome. Okay, cool. Now actually I start getting some understanding of how the StackStorm works a little bit. Okay, if you already know that you want to run an action, but you want to know the proper syntax, there is contextual help. Okay, let's do that. By the way, is StackStorm open source? Yeah, it seems to be. Okay. Okay, everything is done through pack. You want StackStorm to integrate with some third-party system. You do this through pack. The StackStorm project maintains its own exchange, which is centralized index for many community maintained packs. Pretty cool. Sorry. Okay. A lot of stuff, I must tell you. Excel, you can read and write Excel spreadsheets if you want. That's pretty solid list, I must tell you, folks. Okay. Cool. And you can also install from GitHub. That's awesome. Who is owner of StackStorm, by the way? Oh, Brocade. Okay. And then Extreme Networks. Okay. This takes quite a while though. I'm actually now a little bit afraid that it broke here. Hopefully that's not the case. Well, if I refresh, I guess the lab will be redeployed, right? So I don't think I want that. Well, it's definitely going on something with this. Nippon Pack is already installed. Oh, okay. Right, there is no button run this, right? Okay. It's still very weird though that it's... Yeah, Napalm is here. Oh, Matt, you were also one of the authors here. Nice. Oh, yeah, it would be good if I could read before I do stuff. That would be very good. This lesson instance of StackStorm will come pre-installed with all of the packs we will need. But it's important to keep... God damn it. Okay. Oh, it can't connect to the internet? Mentors saying, just wanted to say thank you for your NRE reads, as well enjoyed watching your interview with David Bombal at Cisco Live. You're a celebrity. Please don't say that. Keep up great work. Thanks for sharing your knowledge. Thank you so much for kind words. I really appreciate it. Please don't call me celebrity though. Please. I'm not better than anyone else, so I like sharing the knowledge and things that I know, but it doesn't, yeah, I should keep my ego in check. Because I think it's a little bit dangerous for the personality. So thank you so much for the kind word though. Matt, I do have a question. So the instance doesn't get connection for the internet? Connection to the internet? I'm sorry for my English. So it's all isolated? Is there... What was the background for that? So like you can't pip install anything, I guess, as well? Okay. Correct, no internet access for security. Everything isolated on the same internal network. That's why I pre-installed everything. Okay, makes sense. It's a little bit sad though, but I also understand. Okay, let's go to the next one. Thank you for your call. You have reached 1-800 NRE Labs. Please hold for Dr. Automation. Damn, that's so cool. Probably, Matt, after the stream, what I'm going to do, I'm going to just click on random labs just to read this. Well, probably I should have just found them on GitHub. But then it will ruin everything, right? Oh. Wow. I can't even copy this. Oh, no, it's alright. Here we go. Oh, I ruined everything now. Everything for instant yeah, I wanted to say a word, but it can be interpreted incorrectly, so I'm looking for another word in my mind. For instant laughs, I guess. So instead of taking time clicking on different labs to read all of the messages, I just went here and I will read everything within 1 minute, and then just to have some fun, but I lose long-term fun. Gratification. Yeah, that's good. I wanted to say different one, but that's good too. Okay. Actions. Though it's important to understand StackStorm is all about event driven, it's useful to spend some time talking about what StackStorm can do. Push config change, restart device, start service, retrieve information, bounce switchboard, send a message to Slack. Okay. From many others, the list is growing. Okay, let's try to understand this. So it all starts with sensors, which may have some trigger. Then it goes to rules, then workflows and call actions. Okay, to be honest, I don't feel more confident after looking at this diagram. So many st2 subcommands use verbs like get, create, delete list for their corresponding resources. For instance, to list all available actions, st2 action list. That's a lot of different stuff here. Okay, we don't care about examples. Okay, Linux, check processes, file, touch. Okay, napalm. Okay, so get arp table, get config, get facts, get log, napalm ping. Okay, so those are the usual functions that you get after you install napalm, right? Then there are stuff for packs. Okay. See that each action is located within a pack, which we explained in the last lab. So a local action in the core pack is referred by its full name as core.local. We can pass this to st2 run execute action. Okay. Okay, cool. Okay, so you can run CMD directly. You can use env, sudo, timeout. Okay. Okay, this is pretty cool. -a core local. So what this does, if you like more familiar with Python, for example, and probably for something like this you would use celery in Python, right? Which is task queue, right? You have some function, and then you launch it from different place with dot delay or dot apply sync, and you get an idea of the job instantly. So the job itself is being put on the queue, right? So in this case it would be very similar, right? So if I run this, I get directly the idea of the job, but this sleep 300 will be run in the background, and you can actually do st2 execution. Now here's a problem. Well, I actually think it will work in this case. Yeah. Oh, the sleep doesn't have anything, so may notice that the okay, there is no result yet, and status is running. Yeah, very similar in this case to kind of like celery architecture. Well, it will take a long time. So term execution is used to describe an instance of running action. Each time you run an action, it gets an ID. Be told to run this asynchronously. It's useful because you will see in the next slide. We don't always run actions on the command line directly like this. Sometimes it's done for us by a rule or a workflow. In this case, retrieving execution details using a st2 execution get is often the only way you know action is performed. I'm not sure why my name is Stanley, but that's okay. To be honest, this doesn't give a lot of details about the actual task set. I mean, it says core local, but it doesn't give you even arguments in this case. Pretty sure there is some command to list more details. May have seen in another session that Napalm is an extremely useful tool.
I'm listening.
Holy shit. I'm sorry, folks.
I don't know how to respond to that.
Damn, that was scary. So like as I was talking, the Siri got activated and it scared the hell out of me. Okay. We are back. I'm trying to relax now. It was super scary because it was also loud. I did not expect that. Okay. StackStorm Exchange includes a pack exposing napalm functionalities. This means, among other things, we can use napalm function as StackStorm actions. You might have noticed earlier that this pack is already installed. Okay. Okay, we already saw this, but now we are just filtering based on the pack. The get facts action in this pack is a great place to get started. Run. I like this because that's exactly the question I had in my mind when I was running this command. Yeah, I think I will try to rerun this. Okay, this is not good. Let's try on another device, just in case. Connect error. Okay, technical issues, just technical issues, that's alright. It's actually napalm Junos device py connect error. Unexpected session clause. I don't know. Okay, I mean, probably doesn't matter which command I'm going to do right now. It's failing for multiple devices. Okay. Okay, I'm going to keep this in case Matt would like to, I don't know, to find the ID or something. I will open the new instance of the lab in the next. Well, probably it's not the new instance, right? Because it loaded too fast. Okay, we will pretend like it ran successfully. At least I get an idea what I expect. Finally, it would be great if you could actually push config change with StackStorm. If you pay attention to the output retrieved in the previous command, you may have noticed that one of our BGP peers is inactive. Let me also see. No, our devices are here. As part of this lesson, we have included a configuration. Hmm. Here is another bug that we uncovered. So, like I have this selected, and I run, so take a look here. So I am here in this session and I'm clicking here and it goes to not to the Junos. Actually, I think this is a so if I click on something else, it is done in this one. So I guess this is just problem with this particular run this snippet. Let me see. Maybe it's somehow signaled in the JavaScript. I'm not sure, but we could take a look. Yeah, it's right here. So run snippet in tab VQFX110. So it's incorrect. Incorrect. Well, JavaScript essentially in this case. Let me do it manually. Okay, I guess I was just unlucky a little bit. Anto did. Jesus Christ. Okay. Yeah, I mean, if that didn't work, I doubt that load config will work. So, let me think. Do I need... I will just close this, right? Let's wait some time. No, I mean, it didn't take long time, I guess. I mean, I rerun this. I doubt that this refreshed the lab. I think I would need like what, either like clear cookies or something, or well, let's do a private session here. Yeah. Matt, I tried those as well. I can do it again. Seems like provisioning of these boxes failed. I don't know. Yay! Yeah, let's go. This one. Please work, please work, please work, please work. Please. Yeah. Cool. Okay. Okay, this spear is up false. Let me also go to yeah, this one is active, right? Yeah, it's definitely weird. Do you have a way to like connect to that session on the backend and like see for yourself, or you want me to like run some debug like while we see this issue? So if you want me to do something to hunt this down later, let me know so that I don't close this lab. Okay, we ran this load config file, patch, status succeeded, and then result load merge successful. If you go to this device and run show BGP summary, yeah, I can poke around the backend, don't worry about it. Okay, then I will just well, kill this lab. Well, I don't think it's killing anything, right? Could you confirm that I can close this tab and it will not tear down everything on the backend? Yeah, BGP here is up. Perfect. This was a brief look at StackStorm actions using Napalm Pack. So it's extremely useful for our purposes here, learning event-driven network automation. However, there are many more actions. Yeah, okay. So, okay, let's kind of like do a brief summary of like the StackStorm in this case. So we saw like how to run actions, which in the world that I know, right, it's just, well, in case of Ansible, it would be Ansible module, but it's just, you run something, right? You do something. That's pretty much what action is. And the main piece of it is pack, which is kind of like a module, right? But it abstracts several modules under the same umbrella. In this case, we had Napalm, and then inside of Napalm Pack we had the action, one action per each Napalm, well, function, if you will, right? Okay, I will just kill this now. Okay, we still have, oh, I thought we already spent a lot of time, but actually we are recording only for less than 2 hours, so it's pretty good. To be honest, so far I actually like StackStorm, especially compared to something like Ansible. this is my like first impression so far. But we'll see. Just like real tasks are performed manually or by another tool, actions almost never run in isolation. They usually run in parallel with each other or in sequence. They usually run based off some decision. Yeah, okay. There are few options that are for accomplishing this in StackStorm. Action chain, Mistral, Orchestra. Okay, I don't know any of those yet. There are of course other tools like Ansible that accomplish similar purposes, especially if you have existing Ansible playbooks. You can certainly execute those playbooks from StackStorm. Please no. Please don't execute any Ansible playbooks for network automation. Every time you do, some animal dies in the forest. The benefit of using this option listed above is that they are more tightly integrated with StackStorm, meaning the workflow and StackStorm can work together. Flow control, asking for more information to continue. Example 1, action chain. Those are simplest but also the least robust workflow option in StackStorm. If you want to run a sequence of actions with some minimal error handling, action chains are probably sufficient for your purposes. They are the bare minimum workflows option in StackStorm. The Hello World example for the action chain has to be echo chain. In particular examples, echo chain from okay, it's just weird name a little bit. Echo chain param. So it's a chain C1 core local echo input 1 first two actions input first parameter. Okay, so this is what you probably like provide on CMD as well if you want. If this succeeds, you go to C2. If this fails, you go to C4. Then in C2, well, you take the output of this and you echo C2 and okay, and then on success you go to C3 and then you do C3 std2 out, and then if one of those fails you do echo fail C4 and default C1. Okay, so this is kind of like an interesting flow that you can specify if something fails. Pretty interesting, yeah. Like many things in list of tasks, this specifies first task in the flow, in this case C1. We also notice that some of the parts look very similar to the variable substitution. It's no accident. Those are actually small Junos templates and StackStorm support their use here, and many other resources. You will see. Okay, let's run this. Okay, I have to provide input 1. Wait, what? So task C3. Interesting. So we printed, the only output that was printed was from the last task. I thought like every one of those is going to be printed. Interesting. Okay. Ah. Okay. This is what I used. I like it when after even like a couple of examples you start remembering commands. There are a couple of comments in the chat. Let me check those out. Did you see Holochain? No, I did not. Comcast is being Comcast, so my view of the stream keeps cutting in and out. If I will join if I can, but in case not, great content. Thanks for the valuable feedback. Thank you so much for joining, Matt. I really do believe this is something really cool. Especially for people who are just starting and don't necessarily know all of these tools. I think it's just an amazing resource, and it definitely, so after, well, we will have like a whole summary at the end, but I can tell you that NRE Labs is definitely going to a list of resources I recommend to people who are starting with network automation, network programmability. So thank you so much for creating it. I think it's just an awesome idea and very, very cool execution as well. So I really appreciate your contribution to the community here. Okay. So Mistral is more powerful than Action Chain. While Action Chain excels in simplicity, it's the simplicity that can at times prove inadequate for some decision-making power or execution style we need in our workflows. In this case, some of the advanced features that Mistral brings to the table may prove useful. However, unlike Action Chain, Mistral is an open stack project and not part of the StackStorm codebase. Okay. My previous experience with OpenStack was not very great. So I definitely have some negative bias here. Mr. Rock'n'Roll, separate entity. Okay, let's look on what is this workflow. Mistral Jinja branching. A sample workflow, how to use conditions to determine which path in the workflow to take. So you get one input, and then you have multiple tasks, T1, A, B, C. You have some input. Okay, this is weird. Publish. Task T1 result std output. Std out, and on success you run tasks A, B, and C. Underscore path A. Okay, I'm a little bit confused, to be honest. Probably there is some explanation here, but path task T1 result. Okay, so this makes sense, kind of. This underscore dot which and underscore dot path, not really. I guess this refers to like current workflow or something, and then path is being taken from here, maybe. And then underscore dot which is the input. Okay, and I think something like this is actually kind of like a branching here, right? So I guess on success we execute task A if the path contains A. Well, if the path is A. We execute B if the path contains B, and C if neither one of those. Yeah, I think this is what is happening. So we would say echo, so we provide an input AB or something else. We will print this, well, we will echo this, right? We will save the output of printing to the pass variable, and then depending on which one of those, we will say echo to pass A, to pass B, or to pass C. Yeah, I think I get some understanding. So underscore dot is just kind of like self in Python, kind of. I think so. Maybe I make 0 sense. So st2 run. Oh, by the way, there is no button here. Oh, Mistral isn't installed in this version of StackStorm lesson. I'm planning to expand this lesson in the near future. You know what? Let me do this. Install StackStorm. Is StackStorm Python? No, I don't think I want to install it locally yet. Maybe we'll have a separate stream on StackStorm in the future. Okay. Okay, so this provides you an easy way to do branching. This kind of publish, in this case it's kind of like Ansible register, I guess, so that you can reference it later. If T1 succeeds, workload points not to one but to all 3 other tasks. In each case, we have a conditional check. Okay. Orchestra is a new kit on the block. Beta workflow. Oops. Oh, okay. Basic workflow, task 1, action. Okay, this is just some different format. We'll just go further. I think this lab will be like the last lab. Well, I mean all of the labs in this StackStorm will be the last labs that we are doing today. I don't want this stream to be super long. Definitely not mining cryptocurrency in your browser. Nice. To be honest, so far I seem to like it, this StackStorm. I like some of the decisions that they made in the product. I'm not sure I'm going to stop using NRE, since like all of my workflows are are mostly Python code, so I don't think I need a separate like runner, but maybe something like this provides an easy way to do event-driven automation. This may help, because right now I don't. Well, you have to build it yourself if you want to have event-driven anything. Actually, well, since I'm mostly doing Cisco, right? For all event-driven stuff, what I tend to do, I build an EM script directly on the device, and the action for that is doing more HTTP something something, and what it does actually HTTP GET, and then your system will listen on that URL and like kind of like register an event, and then this will trigger whatever you want to trigger. So like your action is, well, your event is being triggered as close to the source as possible. So yeah, you can trigger based on some logs, or well, in case of logs, you could use napalm logs, so that all of this processing is done centralized and trigger some actions. But if you use something more than just the logs, right, then you could set up EM script which will do HTTP GET to some place and will trigger workflow that you need to trigger. I mean, the whole problem with all like event-based automation is how do you get that event, right? JV, I hope I pronounced your name correctly. Hello, how are you doing, sir? Getting some rest on the weekend? Okay, this takes some time. Well, I hope you will learn something new from today's stream or my previous streams. Okay, this takes long. My patience. I should train my patience, I guess. Now I will wait for 1 more minute, if not I will refresh this. Why do I have a feeling that you are also loading some labs and we are creating some CPU bottleneck on their backend? But we have some peak here. Yeah, unfortunately it's not easy to see all of the labs. Damn. 5 to 1. Okay, around like 20 instances here. Plus minus. Even more, I guess. Five StackStorm labs. I don't know, this one seems to be broken. And I don't want to jump to another lab, to be honest, since let's actually, I think we could go through this lab quickly. It seems like only one scenario. So in this lesson we'll talk about breaking common workflow down to smaller pieces. Using knowledge we gained from previous lessons, we built a small script for each piece of the workflow. We'll string the small scripts together, the Linux command line, in order to rebuild our workflow scenario. An IP phone user has called to report problems with their audio. They are unable or unwilling to provide any additional information. Our goal over this lesson is to find the name of the access switch and the interface that their phone is attached to. This first step, we have created a small script to retrieve IP address of the phone from IP PBX, giving the extension number of the phone. Before we run this script, we will have to start the cphone software located on a cphone box. Okay, let's run this. Okay. Folks, I have no idea about voice at all. The phone is now registered to the PBX. See this yourself. Hit enter in the cphone lab. You should see that account 2 has status OK 200. Yeah. This means that phone is registered to PBX. In this case, phone has extension 1107 assigned. Let's get an IP of the phone by querying cpbx. Click the button below. First, we'll check what the script does. Maybe. Okay, args. Parsing the args here. Base URL. We go to asterisk. We use this thing. Sorry, when we are talking about voice, I can only call things thing because I have no idea at all. Contacts, then we parse XML. We find this. Okay, we get via address. Okay, and then we parse XML from asterisk and we get the data. For many enterprise customer, getting IP address of a software hardware client such as phone, virtual machine host, a chat client, or storage element can be difficult, time-consuming. Having a script such as this, where you can pass in non-network data such as extension number to retrieve network data, such an IP address can save time and frustration. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I mean, this seems... I'm not like 100% convinced it was super helpful. I mean, probably because in your environment you will need to use something else and you have to write it for yourself. I don't know, you go to IPAM, you check something or something like this. But okay. Yeah, I think there is a lot more this particular lab would benefit from. But all of this is content creation, and all content creation takes significant time. Error retrieving requested lesson undefined. No, I will not submit issue. There is only undefined error, so it's not a lot. Let me see the chat. It keeps failing on me. Okay. I can have more private windows. Did we just break NRE Labs? Oh no. Okay, we'll try it once more. Let me see the chat. Okay, there were a couple of questions. I'm sorry, folks. I was really focused on the lab, so I didn't pay attention at all. If I wanted to learn about Nornir, what one document explain what it is, how it works, and how to use it? I've been looking at the GitHub. Yeah. Okay. So I would just go to Nornir docs, and so go to Nornir docs, and you just go like page by page. They are very small, so like, and we really try doing our best to have this concise and up to date. So you see, like, those are like one screen things. And then if you like go forward, you like go installation. One of the things that we do in our docs is we use Jupyter notebooks directly as part of our docs. What this allows us to do as part of our continuous integration, whenever we push any new code to our repo, we actually run our tutorials and verify if the output is the same. And if the output is not the same, then the CI fails. So not only we run tests for like our code, we run our notebooks, which are tutorials, to make sure that they still work as expected. So this is like a great way to like just follow along with these tutorials and then rerun them. Now, since you ask me, and you could also use the workshop that I built. So I had the Cisco Live Europe, the workshop, which you can clone and use it. So it's dev. I will post it in the chat. So actually, first let me post the docs. So docs here, and the workshop is here. I don't really have like a lot of details here, but what you need to do, you have to run Jupyter, and then you launch this Jesus Christ, not playbook, the notebook, and it kind of walks through like the main features of the whole framework. Like, okay, what is the inventory? How do you do simple task? How do you do simple netmiko, simple napalm? How do you deal with connections? How do you retrieve different data? How you change the data, filter. You can combine filter and tasks, custom tasks, and yeah, so this is like intro level tutorial for the learner. Got the same error, mine didn't resolve after refresh. Okay, mine is working. Yay, folks, we're back in business. So how far we have seen a few options of doing work. So okay, so what did we see? We did see packs, we did see actions, which you can run in blocking mode or in async mode, and we saw simple workflows where we were chaining tasks, and we had 3 different ways you can chain it. So let's go forward. So this lesson uses the term event-driven automation, and it's important to learn how we take these concepts. This automation in an autonomous way. In other words, you don't want to just define what to do, we want to define when to do it. In order for StackStorm to know when a certain event has taken place, it needs to have some kind of process of gathering the data about other systems or processes. It needs a mechanism for gathering raw data so that it can make a decision about when that data represents something meaningful in the event. StackStorm uses something called sensors to do it. These are little bits of Python code that run as separate processes within StackStorm. As with everything else, sensors are distributed within packs. Okay, let's take a look. What? Oh, sensot. SE and so. Okay. So okay, there is interface sensor and napalm LLDP sensor. Okay. Sensor, get interface sensor. I didn't know that napalm has sensors. Are those only for StackStorm? Okay, I think so. Oh, okay, so this is just the polling mechanism. So yeah, okay, makes sense. So okay, you can create your own sensor. Okay, sensor is just a periodic job, if you will, right? Most likely. If you want sensor that polls external system, yeah. So we had the polling. We see a lot more detail about the sensor, including the field artifact URI, which is an absolute path to the actual Python code running the sensor. The content of the sensor is a bit beyond the scope. Okay, we already did that. Let's see what it does. Okay, this is also polling sensor, I see. Yeah, so it goes like every 5 seconds or minutes, I don't know. And like it goes to every single device. Momo, thank you so much for following. So it seems like it goes to every device through the credentials, and then okay, we save the status about the interfaces to the self-device state, and then on every run we look on the current details of the interface, and if those are different, then we trigger something. You see, it's actually quite a bit of code here. It's not like it takes some work. But okay, now it kind of like makes sense. It's impossible to talk about sensors without talking about triggers. Sensors would have no point in existing if it wasn't for triggers. You can think of sensors as a bit of fairly self-contained code for constantly bringing in information about some external entity or system. It's up to this sensor to determine if the information being brought is actionable. For this instance, interface sensor periodically polls our network devices for interface information. If nothing changes with respect to our device network interfaces, no meaningful event has taken place. However, if we disabled an interface, next time our sensor polled that interface, it would notice a change, and it's time to notify StackStorm that this meaningful event has taken place. This notification is called trigger. Each sensor is responsible not only for deciding when to fire, but also to register all possible triggers by declaring them in sensor metadata file. Excuse me, folks. Trigger. Okay, you define a trigger declaratively here, and you say what other information it's going to return, and it's going to return device as a string and interface as a string. Now, I guess as part of that previous script, you would have to say that, okay, I trigger, interface up down trigger hostname. Look at this. We will say interface up down trigger if down. Let me find the if up or if down. I think it's like a constant at the top. Yeah, it's right here. So we have this if up and down, and then at some point we trigger them, and then we also define them in YAML, the same one, which is napalm interface down and napalm interface up, which will also return device and interface. Okay, makes perfect sense. You can see the triggers have properties. This is what I already discussed. So device and interface. How do we know when an event has actually taken place, when a trigger has been fired? For this we use a slightly different term, trigger instance. There's a special resource type using StackStorm that represents an instance of trigger. It's kind of like event, I guess. This is fairly similar to relationship between actions and executions. We can see trigger instances. Okay, let's run this. Okay, so there were no occurrences, empty list. Well, this makes sense, doesn't it? Our sensor has been busy collecting data, but the data hasn't shown any changes. Okay. You want me to kill this interface? Easy. Easy. It would be good if I could also type correctly. Here we go. Nice. Pretty cool. Nice. Okay. And it says this device and this sensors. Okay, this is kind of interesting. Probably like my slight concern is that my slight concern is that it's polling. It's a lot of load on your network to do this, and our polling is every 5 seconds. So yeah, I have a little bit mixed feelings about this. What ideally, what you could do, and I know you can do it on Cisco, and probably you can do it on Juniper as well, is, as I described to you, I am more familiar with Cisco, right? You would create an EM script which looks for the change directly on the device. It could be routing table change, interface change, whatever, right? And then it triggers a REST API, and this REST API could actually refer to StackStorm trigger. I'm pretty sure you can trigger the trigger remotely. I think so. I mean, it would be pretty logical. So your device, let's say, goes to HTTPS 10.0.0.1, which is your StackStorm instance / whatever, API, whatever, and then it, you are basically directly saying that, okay, this event occurred, right? Because in this case, what you're doing is pretty cool, but the load on network, from my perspective, is quite big. I don't think I can, it doesn't allow me to scroll anymore. Yeah. So if we do this, right, this is polling. So every 5 seconds, it goes to the device. Well, actually, it's not that bad. It's kind of. It's not super bad. Or actually it is. Let me think. Well, it seems we keep the connection open, so that's good. Okay, it's more or less okay. We keep at least the connection open. We're tracking per device node state. So we have like an open SSH connection or something, but yeah, I mean, it's still a lot, right? You basically every 5 seconds you go to the device, even if you have connection already open, you go to the device and say show interfaces, right? And then you parse that data and then you make a decision based on it. Imagine if you're trying to define more and more of those triggers. So yeah, there is one idea in the chat, like couple it with telemetry. Yeah, I agree with you. So well, I don't know like how it's actually done in StackStorm, right? But you would use some telemetry to get data, and telemetry was invented. All of the like protocols there were invented with a use case of either polling or on change notification. Those are protocols that were designed to do specifically this, right? So even if it's periodic, it's still optimized for that use case. But in ideal world, it will be on change. So like you have some kind of thing, you're subscribed to a change in this YANK model data. When it happens, the device streams to you, and then you have to process it and make a decision. Okay, well, it all makes sense. I mean, it's still, even if you do a kind of naive like this, you can still get an interesting results, right? You can know when your interface in your whole network is down. Okay, let's do the next one, rules. Let's see how we are doing on time. So we are streaming for 2 hours 40 minutes. Okay, we are getting close to 3 hours, which is my usual limit. I think we will, well, hopefully if this lab loads without any issues, we should be able to finish it on time. So what did we do? We did robot. We did this automatic troubleshooting chain, and we are right now working on StackStorm. Okay, here's the overlap. Oh, it's the last one. Nice. So we are actually good here. So, okay, rules. All of the concepts we learn come together. We will learn about rules via sensors and triggers. Okay, so this basically says when trigger instance occurs, we will take this action. This is what rule is. Yeah. Finished rule can be seen here. Continue to walk through each component of the lab. Okay, let's see. So what is this rule? So it's a YAML file, it's declarative file. It's called replace interface config. Watches for interface down events from Napalm. Sends a config snippet to the device to turn the interface back up. Trigger Napalm interface down criteria nothing. Okay, so when we're saying when this trigger occurs, we'll take the action Napalm load config with these parameters. And oh, by the way, you can see that it says trigger.device, which, if you remember, this device was a parameter like output of the trigger. And then we apply this config file. Okay, so it seems like this config file is static though. I'm pretty sure. or maybe it actually uses Jinja. See. Yeah, so okay, this one is static, so probably you would want to use Jinja here or something, so that you say trigger.interface and then you substitute the interface, if this is what you want to do. Okay, now it describes what it is. Criteria. Okay, so for in the criteria you can have like a filtering if you want for only for some triggers to trigger an action. Okay, but you can use Jinja if you want to. And then you create, normally rules would be allocated in the rules directory of the pack, but we can also create a rule directly from the command line. Okay, cool. Rule create. Okay, so we do that, we get ID of the rule, action criteria, trigger. Okay. Tabula output showed us StackStorm has ingested our new rule definition and is ready to watch for new trigger instances. Now that the rule is in place, any new instances of trigger will be handled by this rule. It's in name of variety. Damn, I can't pronounce it. Let's trigger an event on VQFX2. Okay. Configure set interfaces for disable commit. Okay, let's go and run it. This as before, we can check instances. Similar, the relationship between actions and execution we can have here. Okay, here we go. We have another hit. So let's run the rule enforcement list. Okay, so when this occurred, we had a rule which triggered, and this is called list enforcement. So we created an action from that trigger. Here's what it is. It's basically trigger instance led to the action, which is execution ID here. This is a very handy tool for seeing our rule in action. If you look at the output, you will notice that the trigger instance ID show ID of the trigger instance that was handled by this rule, as well as execution ID of the execution of the action execution that was created. Remember how we retrieved the execution details? ST2 execution details will get it for us. Yeah, so now we queried ST2 execution get based on this, and then we see that it applied config file on VQFX2 and result was merge successful. Looks like our load config executed successfully. Let's look on interfaces on the EM4, on the interface EM4. And we see that our interface is up again. So to recap, actions and workflows used to performing useful tasks about our network. Sensors, triggers help us integrate with external systems. Monitoring platforms, network devices. Rules also allow us to describe if this then that. Logic that ties triggers with actions and workflows, so we don't have to execute scripts ourselves. Okay, cool. Okay, so let me I'm going to right now do a wrap up since we are approaching almost 3 hours. So first, let's do wrap up about StackStorm, right? So I have never seen StackStorm before in my life, and to be honest, I'm intrigued. I think it's an interesting system that probably worth exploring. I see it has much more power than Ansible in this case. This I like their command line interface, to be honest. It's very consistent. Like you have get, create, list for everything, and majority of names make sense. So you say like st2 action get or st2 action create or something, and everything is very similar. So this first thing. Second thing, everything has like, if you submit anything, if you create anything, you get an ID, and then based on this ID you can query. You can run actions like in blocking way, or you can run it asynchronously and then query based on the task ID. You can do that. You can tie everything together easily, well, kind of easily, if you can define your trigger correctly and sensor. If you have like an easy way to feed this data all the time, then you can trigger these actions very easy. So in general, I like their approach. I'm not sure like how efficient the system is and stuff like that, because Ansible is super slow, for example. But I am a little bit intrigued. I'm not sure if I'm going to start using it for my projects yet, but I think it's worth trying actually. Yeah, so this was about StackStorm. We also had the robot framework. I think that is interesting too. That said, I think it's more interesting for people who are not engineers, I guess. So like for people who would like to see beautiful HTML report, or for people who need to interact with the testing system, but they are like scared to change something, like the users are not proficient enough to be able to change like testing, and they want to use like English like language to define their tests. So I personally don't have projects like this, since like when I need testing I can use like PyTest or something, but I guess I'm just not the target audience. But it's also interesting, like I didn't explore it before, so it was interesting to see. So yeah, we did that. We also did another lab on troubleshooting chain. I do feel like it's a little bit incomplete. It wasn't super impressive. You just run one script and it gets the data from one place, feeds this data, processes the output from some database and returns it to you. I don't think it was super impressive, to be honest. But you can build something, add something interesting there later. Now let's go to the feedback around the whole NRE Labs. So I already told some of my impressions during the stream. We did 3 different lessons or courses. I already don't remember their. I think those are called lessons. So we did this StackStorm, we did robot, and we did this automatic troubleshooting chain. I think it's awesome resource to get started with network programmability. You don't need anything. You don't need to install anything locally. You don't need to find a proper tutorial for your appropriate software version or something. You just go to the portal, you click on the lab, lab provisioned to you within 5 minutes or so, and you just follow the directions to learn something. Super easy. There are a couple of like small technical things, but this project was just born like 4 months ago. It's still too early, and even at this stage, I think it's a great learning resource, and I would encourage everyone. Well, if you are watching this stream, probably it means that you are somewhat interested in network automation or network programmability. So if you are one of those people, and I hope you are, I definitely recommend you going through NRE Labs on every topic that you don't think you know enough. There are like tools on this list that I haven't tried, like JSnappy, StackStorm, Robot. I use some of other tools, but so I didn't do labs for them. But these tools that we explore today, I haven't seen before. So it was so easy to get started, and it definitely reduced this barrier, this entrance barrier for me, because look, if you look on the whole network automation at DevOps, there are so many different projects and tools. It's so hard to understand what is relevant to you and to learn the tool fast, or to learn the tool to the point where you can make a decision if this is useful to you or not, right? And a resource like this helps so much, right? You go to the lab, you spend 30 to 45 minutes, maybe even less, go through the lab, and you already get some hands-on knowledge, hands-on skills, and then you can make a decision. This is something interesting, I see use cases in my environment, or maybe, okay, this looks interesting, but I don't really care about this tool. So then you go ahead and select something else, right? And you feel much more comfortable, because then the next step could be you could install this tool on your local machine. You can install some network devices and try to replicate the same steps of the lab but in your environment, and so that you gain this gradual knowledge of all these different tools. Because I do think that the whole net DevOps right now is super overwhelming area. There's just so many tools. Sometimes I'm tired of all these different tools. Like, I learned this thing, I feel like it solves my needs, and I'm hesitant to check something other because like it will require a lot of time to learn this tool to the same levels that I know this tool, for example. So I really need to be convinced that, okay, learning this particular tool solves some kind of problem for me. So think like NRE Labs, I think is just amazing. It's free, no registration, no whatsoever. Just it's you only need to have a wish to do this, right? That's the only thing you need. There is nothing else stopping you from learning this new network automation techniques or tools. There is a question in the chat: is this introduce you to configuring routers and switches? Well, it depends. If you are talking about automating configuration of the devices, then yes. If you're talking about how to configure actually the routers and switches and actual technologies, then no, it's just about network automation, network programmability. Okay, folks, I don't see any other comments or questions in the chat. I would like to say thank you to Matt Oswald. I'm sorry if I pronounce your name incorrectly. I think you did an amazing work here. I'm looking forward to hearing more and to see more lessons in the future. I do believe you are on the right track, and this is something that was definitely missing in the community. So thank you so much for creating this, working on this. Also, thank you so much for joining the stream today and answering some of the questions in the chat. It was super cool. So, and with that, I would like to say thank you to people who watched the stream today. The recording will be posted sometime next week, and I will see you next Sunday. Bye everyone.